Not too long ago, I threw together a quick video about a kid who grew up to create some of my favorite contemporary TV animation, Ian Jones Quartly. He worked on Adventure Time, Steven Universe, and most recently, his own show, OKKO, Let's Be Heroes. I used to read his webcomics when we were both teenagers, and I was proud to find out that he took his childhood passion for cartooning all the way to a full career. Now, OKKO is coming to an end after its third season, and Ian once called me out on Twitter, playfully asking me to talk a little bit about the show on my YouTube channel. Okay, Ian, fair enough. Let's talk about OKKO, Let's Be Heroes.
OKKO, let's start the show.
Normally, I'd go through a show episode by episode, unpacking the main plot points and narrative themes of each individual story and talking about what worked for me. But with OKKO, that's kind of difficult. Whereas most shows try to pick a lane between being a slapstick comedy show, or a story and character-driven narrative, or an epic action show with incredible fights, OKKO makes the bold move of being all of these things at the same time. The result is a show that's somewhat manic, but still full of lessons, character development, and heart, and it's incredibly endearing for the sake of all that. But it also makes it a tough fit for my regular editorial style. I don't need to dive deep into a narrative to extract the message of an OKKO episode, because the show is intentionally blatant with it. And that makes that kind of narrative analysis challenging, because when it comes to delivering the moral of the story, OKKO is anything but subtle.
But aren't you guys upset that I
broke into Buttman's lair all by yourself? Yeah, that was pretty stupid. But it also took serious guts!
And it was super brave!
You got our respect!
And collaboration! But most of all, you have our friendship!
You might think hitting the viewer over the head with a message might feel shallow and preachy, but with OKKO, this over-the-top delivery is part of what makes the show work. It gets away with being ludicrously direct by leaning into the absurdity of its own medium. OKKO is a cartoon, and it revels in that. And when I say it's a cartoon, I don't just mean that it's an animated program. I mean, it's our cartoon's cartoon, with rubbery, loose character designs, strange slapstick worlds, and just rules that push the boundaries of art in a direction that only animation can. It's a world that lives in and thrives on silliness, wordplay, puns, and humor. Everything OKKO does is under the umbrella of this classic cartoon goofiness, and that gives the show a lot of freedom. OKKO's silliness allows it to play fast and loose with traditional narrative conventions, and the self-aware writing of the show lets it walk a fine line between being genuine about telling short, fun stories with obvious morals, while intentionally and lovingly mocking its own over-the-top delivery. That lighthearted, fun attitude is amplified even further by how small OKKO really is. Despite putting on a facade about being about heroes and adventures, the show takes a lot of care to make its absurd world feel small and personal. The big famous superheroes that KO, the show's main character, idolizes, are all just local people. Sure, they're heroes who fight villains in the context of the world, but most of them seem to hold down regular jobs too. In fact, almost everything in the show takes place at a small neighborhood shopping center, Lakewood Plaza Turbo. And that's kind of a brilliant way to frame the series. It evokes the feeling of the show just being part of a local neighborhood. A local neighborhood in a world where being a hero is something anyone and everyone can be to some extent. And that's kind of an uplifting message, right? Everyone can be a hero, even if it's not their full-time job or ambition. So, I guess what I'm saying is, go volunteer at your local food bank. Even better, though, is that this small world is ideal for telling the story through the eyes of our main character. KO may be a young boy on a journey to become a great hero, but more importantly, he's a kid.
I take it you've never worked in customer service?
Nope, I'm a little kid.
And for little kids, your local neighborhood is kind of your whole world. KO idolizes heroes who are just people around his town. Mr. Gar is a legendary 11 hero, but KO is amazed to hear that his own mother knows one of his role models personally. And why wouldn't she?
You know Mr. Gar?
Of course! He runs a whole plaza.
But that's just kind of how it is with kids KO's age. When you're young and you run into your principal or a teacher out in the real world at the grocery store, it's kind of this unreal experience somehow, even though they're just regular people. Framing that experience around KO's view of the plaza and the heroes makes this whole cartoony world feel a little more real and personal somehow. Either way, that small local neighborhood is where almost the entire show takes place, starting with the show's first and perhaps most direct message. Nobody reaches their goal overnight. You have to work for it.
You don't start out as a hero, you become one.
I can become a hero? But where do I begin?
KO doesn't understand this message at first, but slowly learns that you need to work hard to achieve your dreams, and decides the right way to do that is to get a job at Gar's Bodega at the local strip mall. Because, let's be honest, nothing is more heroic than working retail and keeping it together in the face of unreasonable and unruly customers. The show has a couple of repeating tropes that it frames its stories around. Absurd, fun exaggerations of working in retail, KO's path to becoming a hero and learning lessons or new skills, and fighting off robots from the evil robot factory across the street, Boxmore. And it's that third main story type that brings out some of the best of OKKO. I love the Bodega Men characters of Rad, Enid, and KO, and Mr. Gar, and all the other fun people at the plaza. But the robots across the street at Boxmore are some of the silliest and most hilarious characters in the entire show. I love seeing how each of these manic bad guys show up with over-the-top entrances and goofy one-liners, each with throwaway costumes, side gags, and childish rivalries. There's also a really fun consistency in how, even though these robots are routinely destroyed in almost every episode they appear in, they seem to have persistent memories with the same personality. And that's part of the joke.
I deserve this. Yeah, I deserve that.
OKKO has also made some of the best cartoon crossovers I've ever seen, finding a way to bring in characters from other series and somehow make them feel at home in KO's weird, hyper-local strip mall world. This includes not only crossovers with other shows owned by Cartoon Network, but iconic big stories from multiple generations, like Captain Planet or Sonic the Hedgehog. I could probably do a video of each of these crossovers alone, and I might later, so for now, let's just leave it at this. Each of these crossovers are super fun, unique stories that not only capture the world of OKKO, but somehow integrate and pay respect to each of the worlds they're borrowing from, with Captain Planet and Sonic the Hedgehog and the other Cartoon Network heroes. It's kind of like the same silly kind of fun adventure that a child might have playing with all of his action figures at once. Along the way, there's a ton of fun storylines about just making friends, learning to be honest, or just being positive and supportive of others. And I think that's my favorite part of the show. For all of the fun and silly gags, the references to other shows or pop culture history, OKKO is inherently a show with a positive attitude. It extols virtues of being true to yourself, having fun, being honest, being supportive and friendly, looking for the good in others, and not being ashamed of who you are. And better still, it does all of this without feeling forced. I think that's kind of special. Even as an adult, there are little messages in this show that I can take something away from. It's something lighthearted and fun that speaks to the best of who we all should strive to be. And it's really funny on top of that. And maybe I'm stretching it, but I also feel like it's the kind of show where you can really see the personality of the creators come through. Like I said, I discovered OKKO in part because I realized it was the project of a grown-up version of a kid whose comics I used to read when I was young, and I was just proud to see where he came. But remembering back at the kind of humor Ian used to tell in those old webcomics, I feel like you can see the same spirit of that childhood humor coming through in this show. And that's really nice. I guess that's a long way of saying that this show has a lot of heart, and I'd love it for that. As OKKO went on, it started taking on more multi-episode stories, longer plots, with a few 22-minute episode specials thrown in. These were fun adventures, filled with bigger stories and character development, but they're also a little bittersweet. When the show entered its third season, it started focusing a lot more on episodes with deeper plot points, and diving into big character reveals that had been hiding in the background. And there was a reason for that. OKKO was ending.
I thought we were gonna draw it out more, tormented for at least another season!
Stop talking and go finish preparations on the Glorb deal.
At the time of this video's publication, the show's last few episodes are airing, and the crew has already closed up production. For me, it's almost like a gut punch. I only just discovered this series, and I'm sad to see it go. And if some of the lighthearted jokes in the last few episodes about how quickly the story is wrapping up are anything to go by, some of the show's crew were probably hoping to spend a little more time in Lakewood Plaza Turbo themselves. I'm not going to speculate about why this show is ending. These sort of things can be complicated, and most of the time, fan speculation doesn't capture the whole story. But I can be appreciative of what we had. 3 seasons isn't a bad run for a show these days, and OKKO had 3 very fun, good-natured, endearing seasons with a lot of heart. I'm still proud of that kid whose comics I read when we were growing up, and I can't wait to see what he and his friends do next. In the meantime, I'm happy to have the show we had, with its fun, hilarious characters, its goofy animation, and a couple of catchy songs that I just can't help but sing along with every time I hear them. So let's end with that. OKKO was a fun, amazing, goofy show that reveled in its medium and ended every episode with a song that dreamily sang about the magic of that medium. I might do more videos about OKKO in the future, but until then, as always, take it easy, Internet, and remember, it's only magic.